Good morning. Back with another YouTube video. It's your boy, Hes. Nah, I'm just joking. This is not a YouTube video. My name is Jesus Cruz Polanco, and I am going to be doing a video analysis of the story of the picture of Dorian Gray. Wait, wrong picture. Okay, here we go. The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. Wait, I'm so sorry. I'm having technical issues. Okay, here we go, by Oscar Wilde. Moving on to step 1. The exposition of the story / the background information that Oscar Wilde gives to readers to better understand the story is that Dorian Gray was the son of a mesmerizing woman called Margaret Devereux. She ran away with a poor young man whom she fell in love with. The problem is, her father, Lord Kelso, did not approve of this relationship. So Lord Kelso paid a Belgian brute, as it says in the story, to kill the poor young man in a duel, which he did. Margaret Devereux was so destroyed by what happened that she died a year later and left a baby called Dorian Gray. Like she was dead, and her father was also dead, Dorian Gray had to stay with the person that killed his own father and also led to the death of his mother by the sadness of the atrocious act it provoked. Yes, he had to stay with Lord Kelso, his grandfather. A few years later, Basil meets Dorian Gray at the bar and is so intrigued by his physical appearance that he decides to make a portrait of him. When Basil shows Dorian Gray the painting, he falls in love with himself and envies the charm portrayed on the portrait. Out of the blue, he developed a fascination for art in general. Fruit of Lord Henry's bad influences, Dorian Gray declares that he would give his soul to be young forever, while the painting of him ages. In the rising action, Sybil Vane, Dorian Gray's girlfriend, commits suicide because Dorian Gray treated her horribly and broke up with her. Dorian Gray does this because he told Lord Henry and Basil that she was the best actress at the theatre. However, Sybil Vane does an incredibly awful performance of the famous play Romeo and Juliet by Shakespeare because she now knows what love is, which makes her unable to fake falling in love in the play, which gets Dorian Gray infuriated because she made him look wrong in front of his friends. The next morning, he finds an alteration in his portrait, which is a testament to the preamble of his malevolence. In the climax, Dorian Gray kills Basil because he claims that it's all because of his cursed painting that his life turned out how it is, which is messed up. In the following action, Dorian Gray repents for all his wrongdoings and actually starts to change. The only problem is that he doesn't see a change in the picture, but instead sees that his gesture in the portrait keeps diving deeper and deeper into a smirk of malevolence. In the resolution, Dorian Gray decides to destroy the portrait once and for all by stabbing it. Once he stabbed it, it ended up killing him. Moving on to step 2. Oscar Wilde uses various forms of literary devices throughout his famous story, one of them being imagery. Oscar Wilde pretty much overflows the story with imagery, literally. In fact, that is what this famous story is known for, imagery. Wilde uses imagery to describe the physical appearance of many characters, including Dorian Gray, with which he uses many hyperboles / exaggeration, so the readers can know to what extent the beauty of Dorian Gray reaches. Wilde also uses many metaphors, like for example, when Lord Henry recommends a book to Dorian Gray, which Dorian fell madly in love with because he thought it closely resembled his life, Dorian Gray declares that it was a poisonous book because, like him, It was filled with malevolent actions. Wilde uses symbolism throughout the story as well. The book that Lord Henry recommended Dorian to read was something that Dorian Gray liked so much that he lived his life on it because he thought it resembled his life and his future. This book symbolizes the damaging influences that forms of art can have on an individual. It also serves as a warning to those who surrender themselves to various forms of art like literature. This ties very much to step 3. The overall theme of the story is that surrendering yourself to forms of art can have its consequences. It can also introduce unhealthy obsessions like vanity, for example, which was introduced to Dorian by the portrait. Moving on to step 4. I really liked the story, but it really saddens me that a young lad like Dorian Gray, who could have lived happily ever after with Sybil Vane, his girlfriend, but instead forms an obsession with vanity and art which quickly led him to his demise. He loved art so much that just because Sybil Vane had done a bad performance in front of his friends, he broke up with her and spoke bitter words to her. This clearly shows that he probably didn't even fall in love with her because he liked her, but because he liked how she expressed the beauty of art through her acting.